You're trespassing, Trash. I said you're trespassing, Trash.
You don't say.
Did you come looking for trouble?
Gotta get to the other side of the Bronx. Fast!
What's the rush? Planning on going to a meeting or something?
Yeah, right. Between me and yoga.
You're lucky, Trash. You see, I got a soft spot in my heart for you.
And they say you got an iron heart.
Beat it. Before I change my mind.
Okay, baby. I owe you one.
The following film podcast frequently contains adult content, including foul language and descriptions of adult situations. Spoilers for the films discussed occur often. Listener discretion is advised. Now take it away, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
All right, welcome to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 171. I'm your host, Lee. Could be a pile of shit out of someone's asshole, Russell. Joined by my co-host, Daniel. Since he's hooked up with that Manhattan pussy, all his blood is rushed to his cock. Harper, how you doing, sir?
That is indeed an apt description of me, ever since I hooked up with that Manhattan pussy.
Manhattan pussy, yeah.
Yeah. No. As opposed to the Bronx pussy, to which I was more reasonably accustomed.
Yeah, I thought I'd probably throw in with the Bronx pussy a little bit more than I would the Manhattan.
Well, certainly based on what we see in this film, there's or films, I should say, but it does kind of feel like one long film.
It really is kind of like, they could have supercut this shit together. And we're also joined by Greg. Dying for you would give my life a meaning. Bolaski, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, but I was really hoping you'd incorporate that line. I don't know it verbatim, but the one
the scratching balls.
No. Your mother didn't give proper birth to you. She just gave birth to you in a sewer and left you, something like that. I don't know the line verbatim, but you know the one I'm talking about. That's the one I want. That's the one I feel that I've earned.
I don't want to get too true to life, Greg. Let's
come on.
Let's try to keep a little bit of kayfabe going on here. But yeah, we are going to be looking at two other additions to Enzo G. Castellari's sort of post-apocalyptic trilogy. We're going to be looking at 1990, The Bronx Warriors, and Escape from the Bronx. But before we get into that, we should just jump right into the comments. And we have three here. One from YouTube. We got a YouTube comment again. I knew we'd get another YouTube comment. But this one's just weird. So this is from someone called Turunchu Baraka. I think he's from like India or someplace like that. I guess. He said, I haven't visited this channel in a long time. And just an aside, I wasn't aware he'd visited this channel ever before. There are things that are perfect. I congratulate you. Please watch my live recording videos for 10 minutes. Good luck to you.
Oh, that's a spam comment. That's a bot that wrote.
No, it's not though. I looked at his channel. This dude's real.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's more a language barrier thing than it is a bot.
Okay, well, hey, we'd love to watch your recording for 10 minutes. You watch our recording for 10 minutes first.
No, I'm not watching any of this shit. I tried watching some of his stuff, and I'm sorry to Runchu, but I don't think our two channels are too copacetic. I don't think they merge very well.
Which episode was he commenting under?
That was our last episode, Conquest.
Oh, wow. Good for him. Maybe he liked the movie. Who knows?
Maybe he did.
Listen, if you have a Pornhub channel of you having sexual intercourse with women from whatever ethnicity you're from, I'll watch it, because why not?
Yeah, maybe Taranchu has some game. I don't know.
Why not?
But if you're listening to Taranchu, or if you hear this on the next episode when it comes up on YouTube, let us know about your Pornhub channel if you actually have it.
Please.
Mm-hmm. And then we might watch for 10 minutes.
I'll review it.
Or maybe like 3 minutes, depending on how good it is.
Say, 3 minutes including cleanup. That's pretty much
exactly.
all I can dedicate.
Exactly. On the Facebook page, you have Kai Clear coming in, commenting on the 2 films we're doing tonight. And he says, the first film answers the question, what if Bob Fosse had a gang of in the post-apocalyptic future? And if you're not aware, Bob Fosse was a dancer and very flamboyant.
I was not aware, but thank you for letting me know.
But there's a lot of that in the first movie, definitely. Jeff Williams comes in with his recommendation of the week, and this time out, and this is one I already responded to him on Facebook and said this is going to be on the top of the list when we do our Jeff Williams month or whatever of recommendations. This Gun for Hire from 1942. He says a major influence on Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Samurai. This noir explores the dangers of fucking with Alan Ladd and his cat. Mm-hmm. But here's the hook, Daniel. Laird Krieger, and Veronica Lake are great in supporting roles, but Ladd owns it in his debut as a leading man. But
no, I saw this comment and I was definitely we'll have to do that one. Just the return to Laird Krieger is enough to get my interest peaked. So definitely,
and it's been a while since we've had him. We've talked about him on the podcast. So
it's been like close to 2 years now. Something like that. Yeah. Also, just for the record, Bob Fosse was like a multi-award-winning director and choreographer on the stage and screen. He won Best Director for Cabaret. He was not just a dancer.
See, I had no idea who he was. I actually had to look him up. So that was the extent of my research.
Yeah,
I apologize. I just wanted to be in on Kai's joke. Basically.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I just wanted to make sure that at least one of us on this podcast actually did know who Bob Fosse was.
No, certainly wasn't me.
Thank you guys for the comments. We can move on now to what we've watched in the last little while. I know you have a little bit to say about something there, Greg, so I'll let you go.
It is a very little bit to say. The only thing I've watched recently is Stranger Things Season 3. I'm a fan of Stranger Things. I've always felt, even including the first season, which I think most people think is probably the best one, I've always never been as big of a fan as some people. Like, people have been absolutely nuts about that series. I've always thought it was a good series, but I enjoyed it. It's sort of like a popcorn movie. I enjoy it, but I don't really get much out of it as much as some other people do. I enjoyed Season 3. Again, it was more of the same. I felt it was really unnecessary, sort of like I felt the second season was unnecessary. But it was a fun ride. A little bit of spoiler territory, but I love the Russian dude who was basically a ripoff of the Terminator. It's like he's not a Terminator. I think Lee's watched it too. So you know what I'm talking about. The dude's basically the Terminator, even though he's a human apparently, but he's completely a fucking Terminator. They even play similar music when the guy plays. I like that. I also found it real strange that this secret Russian base that apparently is so secretive that they snuck in under a mall with no one finding out, that a bunch of kids can get in and out several times undetected. And not only that, once the Russians know they're found, they manage to escape while the U.S. government is on top of them. They manage to escape with a bunch of hostages, apparently, and back to Moscow without anyone finding them. Yet the kids have no problem sneaking in and out. So I don't know about this whole story. I think it's a little bit iffy. But again, it's also meant to be 80s nostalgia, and I get that. I know. I think I even saw a post on Facebook from you, Lee. I think you mentioned about how much they suck the 80s dick in that movie. They completely do. They have the whole new Coke scene and all that. And you know what? I admit I like a lot of that stuff. I thought the Never-Ending Story thing was just absolutely fantastic. It was so cheesy. It was so cheesy, but I absolutely loved it. Yeah, that's the thing. I know they were sucking the 80s dick, but I did love some of those parts. But yeah, overall for me, it was like, it's a fun movie. It's a fun show. It may as well be a movie because it's a quick watch. if you enjoyed Stranger Things, I think this is just as good as the other Stranger Things. I don't think it's any better or any worse, but I recommend it.
I liked it. I mean, going on to never-ending story references, at least they redeemed themselves by totally making fun of his stupid ass afterwards. Like, you sung never-ending story with your girlfriend, you loser.
I will also say, just on a very slight tangent, there are certain movies I watched in the 80s as a child that I should never have been exposed to. The first Neverending Story movie is a terrifying movie that children should not watch.
It is kind of horrific, isn't it?
There was a lot of scary stuff, along with stuff like Return to Oz. I think Neverending Story 2 was a little bit scary, too, like Garbage Pail Kids, Little Monsters. Those movies, the one with Davey Bowie and the other...
Labyrinth.
Yeah, and the other Jim Henson one, The Dark Crystal. Yeah. Those are all movies should not be consumed by children. And I watched all those movies at a very young age, and I feel they traumatized me and turned me into the slightly unhinged adult that I currently am.
I think children should be exposed to fictional trauma. I think it builds character, but that's just me.
Well, maybe it toughened them up. I don't know.
So one of the things that actually kept me watching because after the first couple episodes, because they actually did like front load a lot of the 80s nostalgia, like in the first couple episodes, was the fact that they watched Day of the Dead in the first episode, and then the soundtrack throughout the entire season had little callbacks to the Day of the Dead soundtrack, which I loved.
I didn't even know that, but
oh yeah, but there we go. You didn't have anything, Daniel?
No, I watched a bit of I watched a bit of Stranger Things Series 3. Like, my wife was watching it, so I saw a little bit of it. I liked what I watched. It was entertaining enough, but I have no real comment other than what you guys said.
Yeah.
Russians in the mall.
Russians in the mall, yeah. I mean, there's this deep dive on American capitalism and socialism, not really.
No, it's nothing like that,
Just on a slight aside, now I've done zero research on this, but I will say that mall looked an awful lot like Monroe Mall that Dawn of the Dead was filmed at.
There was definite connections to that too. Yes, they were definitely referencing Monroeville Mall. So yeah.
Yeah, I almost was wondering if they filmed in the same mall, but I didn't bother to research.
No, I don't think they did. I think they pretty much built, like, they got all the monies, so they just built their sets, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so for me, I'll just quickly mention just another Barnes & Noble Criterion sale. Every time they do one of these, like, they used to only do it like once a year, I think. Now they just do it whenever the fuck they feel like it. And every time they do...
Noble, they've got to do something.
Yeah, I guess because, all they have is people showing up and using their toilets for the most part in their physical locations. So, yeah, so I picked up a couple movies. I try to restrain myself from spending over like $100 on these things. So, it's 3 movies this time. And I picked up Fiend Without a Face, which is an old sci-fi film. It's one of the first sci-fi films that sort of starts pushing the gore in modern cinema, kind of. So it's like these brain creatures that are initially invisible, and they're thought creatures. They're created by an experiment with atomic radiation and human thought that makes them actually manifest, like they're thoughts that manifest into creatures. And they're these disgusting brain things with spinal cords, and they sort of propel themselves by like moving their spinal cords across the ground and shit. It's both goofy but kind of fun at the same time.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, they take it totally serious, and there's gore in it. Like, they're shooting these brain creatures, and there's blood spurting in places and shit like that. People are violently dying because these brain creatures, while they're invisible, they hunt people and they latch onto them and strangle them with their like spinal cord that they have tailing behind them. So it's a good sci-fi movie, 74 minutes or something like that. So it's an incredibly quick watch. There's no fat on it at all. It's just like bang, bang, boom. And it's set in Canada, of all places. It's an American military base in Canada. So they actually go into a little bit of military versus citizens sort of political, social talk there. And they talk about atomic power a little bit in it, typical.
That sounds like something we should do. I definitely want to do this.
I bought spoilers. I bought all these for films to actually do on the podcast. Next one, Eyes Without a Face. the French semi-noir horror film in a way about a mad doctor who is trying to reconstruct his daughter's disfigured face by basically capturing young women who fit her physical profile and trying to skin graft their faces onto hers.
Jesus.
And it's pretty goddamn good. It's also a really gory film for its time. It's got some really good effects. It's got some noirish shots. I think it was actually criticized back in the day for being too noirish, when that was something that wasn't in anymore. It was like, oh, your movie looks too old. It looks stupid. Like, you should move on, kind of thing. But it's great. Great performances. It's been remade by Jess Franco at least like 3 times in his career. He's used the idea like over and over again. I think he made the movie Faceless in the 80s. I think it was actually his last movie he directed, actually. And yeah, it's fucking awesome. So we are going to get to that at some point. It's a really effective sort of thriller horror film, very creepy. And the last one I got was Blow Up with David Hemmings, who we've talked about it was Deep Red, right? That he was in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And man, that fucking film. I haven't seen that in a long time. And
yeah, me either. I would definitely like to do it though.
And rewatching that, revolves. It's kind of got a connection to Baba Yaga in a way, because it's sort of the same world with like fashion photography, art photography kind of thing. And, but it's more about actually the photographer's life in this one, where it's more examines his lifestyle, and there just happens to be like a possible murder mystery underneath that's kind of incidental to his sort of day or whatever. Right. And really good stuff. So yeah, look out for those coming on the podcast sometime in the next little while.
In the next 5 years. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to play some podcast promos and some music, and we're going to come back and talk about the Bronx Warriors.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of.
It's unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How could you watch
movie.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hello and welcome to Hello, This is the Doom Show. I'm Richard.
And I hate the burning.
Shh, who are you? Speak.
And I'm Brad.
She came in and said, bark, bark, bark. And he said, bark, bark, bark. And she said, bark, 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 bark. That's what I got.
One is the Suspiria boner. The other's the Inferno boner. Anyway.
Which one is crying? The boner of tears.
Hello, This is the Doomed Show is available on hellodoomedshow.podomatic.com and doomedmoviethon.com.
Hello, this is the Doom Show. Richard, Brad, Jeffrey, Naffa. It's the Doom Show. Hello, this is the Doom Show. Slashers, giallo, and horror.
All right, 1990, the Bronx Warriors from 1982.
In the year 1990, the New York City authorities declared the wasteland known as the South Bronx to be a high-risk area. There would be no further attempt to restore law and order to that notorious borough. The South Bronx had long since been controlled by gangs with such names as the Riders, Scavengers, Ironmen, Tigers, and Sharks. To venture without permission into the territory of a rival power was to risk war. War with no holds barred. War to the death. Only one man had anything to gain from such a war. Only one man could prevent it. Only one man. 1990, the Bronx Warriors.
Directed by Enzo G. Yeah, this throws you right off, doesn't it? so distant in the future.
1990, the Bronx Warriors, filmed 1982.
Directed by Enzo G. Castellari, written by Dardano Schicchetti, Eliza Brigante, Enzo G. Castellari, and Antone Pagon, starring Stefina Girolami, which is weird because she's actually Castellari's daughter, but she has the same last name as one of the other actors in this. I think they must have intentionally did that to sort of like hide that she's actually Castellari's daughter. Also starring Marco.
Is she the one with the whip?
What?
Is she the one with the whip?
No, she's not.
Okay.
Sadly.
Okay.
Marco Di Gregorio, or Mark Gregory, as Trash. The late, great Vic Morrow as Hammer. Fred Williamson as the Ogre. Betty Elizabetha Desi as Witch. Rocco Lero as Paul. George Eastman coming in again as Golem. Carla Brait as Iron Man leader. John Lifredo as Ice. Ennio Girolami as Ted Fisher. And Enzo G. Castellari himself as the vice president in this. And we do have a synopsis here from IMDb. It's 1990, and the Bronx has officially been declared a no-man's land, devoid of any laws. A wealthy young woman runs away from her Manhattan boarding school into this wasteland of motorcycle gangs, marauding warriors, and degenerate street trash. There, she takes up with this motorcycle gang called the Riders and their leader named Trash. Her corrupt father sends a ruthless mercenary to bring her back at all costs. And, yeah, it's a fair assessment of what goes on in this film, I guess. So Gregory, what are your sort of general thoughts on this one?
I guess I'll just steal what I'm sure everyone else is thinking. It's basically a ripoff of Escape from New York combined with, well, more of the Warriors. I feel it does have an Escape from New York vibe as well, but it's very much seems like a ripoff of the Warriors, and it's just got a little bit, especially based on one scene, it's a little bit of Clockwork Orange as well. So it seems like the Italians were ripping off some pretty good films, actually. It's an interesting movie. I mean, of the two movies we watched, I think this one's a little bit more coherent one, and it's at least kind of got a plot that gets somewhere anyway. I don't know what to say about this movie. Granted, I was a little bit drunk when I watched it last night. I enjoyed it. It was interesting. I think it was better than the sequel, which normally these movies are, but ultimately it was kind of a meh watch, but I don't know, it's one of those movies I don't have a lot to say about. I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it either. I just thought it was a fun early 80s romp, and it's kind of what I'd expect from something like this that's sort of low budget and, well, Italian.
You racist.
Yes,
Daniel.
I just kind of, hit underline on pretty much everything you just said there. I like this. I think this is the more, I definitely think this is the more coherent. There's kind of more going on in this film than in the sequel. But I think that the, sort of the themes are a little bit better worked out in the sequel than they are in the first film. And there's a little bit of a Mad Max 2 kind of thing going on, where the first film feels a little bit like kind of, it's a street gang movie in what is ultimately a kind of like fairly still kind of well-maintained society, whereas like the sequel is several years later after the whole thing is just collapsed, and we have a little bit more of a full-fledged, kind of police action kind of going on to clear out everything. I'm sorry, I'm kind of talking about them together, but
hard not to.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel like, Volume 1, Volume 2, just a little bit. But I like the performances in the first film. I think there's some really kind of cool stuff. Vic Morrow as Hammer is really memorable here. Trash, I think I like him better in the second film. I don't think he's got a lot going on, and he's just not a great performer. Apparently, he was only about 18, even by the time of the second film, he's crazy young, and he doesn't look that young. He for those, I assume that no one is going to watch this film who hasn't already watched it. He does have quite a Rico Suave look to him.
He's got quite the fucking stature and walk as well to him. Yeah, and this is he's professionally known as Mark Gregory. He's pretty famous in some sort of like niche fandom of this film. He was discovered at age 17, basically just working out in some gym in Rome. So he was already the athletic gym nut at 17. You can tell like he did a lot of chest exercises.
Yeah,
like he's got a really big chest. Arms and legs.
I have this mental image of like the beginning of Boogie Nights where Burt Reynolds runs into Dirk Dick or Brock Stamps or whatever the fuck his name is, Eddie Adams or whatever, and it's like, can I see your dick? It does feel a little bit like that kind of, less dick and more abs, especially since
I would say Castellari was not too far divorced from that situation when he discovered Mark Gregory. If you listen to the commentary for the film and the subsequent amateur documentary that was made, The Search for Mark Gregory, because he did a handful of films and then disappeared by the end of the decade and just went private and went away. And there was this like YouTuber who was a big fan of Bronx Warriors, Escape from the Bronx. He's like, where did Mark Gregory go? And he's been like searching for him. And I haven't watched all the way through it, so I don't know if he ever fucking discovered him, but
I checked the website on there's a very old fashioned looking website. Yes. If you go to
very GeoCities,
and it does not look like they've updated it several times over the years, and it does not look like they actually did find it.
Yeah, I don't think they ever they think they know where he is, but they never quite confirmed it. But yeah, so apparently Castellari is pretty smitten with this dude.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think he saw his dick. Who knows? Maybe. Who knows? But either way, he was definitely interested in making this kid a star. And yes, you can tell in this film that Mark Gregory is not an actor.
Right.
He just looks good.
He's very wooden. He looks fine. He's got a physicality to him. By the time of the sequel, he's definitely a little bit more of a performer, and you're gonna get a little bit more of a you get a little bit more of a characterization there. It's worth noting. But
he walks like he has a metal pole up his ass.
Yeah. He's a little bit of the weak spot of the first film,
Yeah,
which is not a bad film. I actually did enjoy the first film quite a bit. I mean, I enjoyed both of these films actually.
I was just gonna say it helps that you have Fred Williamson and Vic Morrow here to carry it, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, Fred Williamson doesn't do a whole lot, but at least he's kind of there. I mean, you kind of walk in. I like how multi-ethnic the gang is. I like that it actually does kind of feel demographically like the Bronx. It's not a bunch of sweaty Italian guys or whatever, which is kind of what I was expecting. I like the fact that there are multiple gangs and that the corporation is kind of coming in and pitting them against each other, which is very much kind of how these things actually go. You give weapon to one side in a conflict. I mean, it's basically like colonialism was this. You give weapons to one ethnic group, and then you just expect them to slaughter the others, and then when they're done, you just slaughter the first group that you gave all the weapons to.
Yeah, we sort of touched on that in Soldier Blue.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I think the film basically works in terms of the thing that it does. It has a kind of a downer ending, but not as much as the sequel does.
No,
so we're gonna get to, I think. It's kind of hard to talk about because it's just kind of got a lot of stuff that happens. I mean, it would probably be easier to comment on it, do a live comm on it, just because it's it's kind of entertaining to watch, but not much of it kind of stuck in my memory, honestly. But I did like the performances of Vic Morrow as Hammer, and Fred Williamson as the ogre.
The ogre,
and there's a girl with a whip fighting with a whip at the end. and that's always great. So yeah.
I like a lot of stuff about this film. It is, of course, a blatant rip-off of Escape from New York, and mostly the Warriors. Because it's basically all about the Warriors type weird gangs really sort of crop up in this film. Like you get to know the sort of gang culture that's happening in the Bronx here. Like I was talking about in the New Barbarians, it's one of those movies where the apocalypse is only kind of like actually happening in this one select area where I thought it felt like it was happening only in one select area in New Barbarians. It's only actually happening in the Bronx in this film. Everything else is just kind of like a dystopia.
Well, it feels more like kind of a like an economic collapse, like there's a lawlessness happening where like the state just doesn't have, the cops aren't showing up anymore. I mean, and it does. Both of these films kind of exist in the the apocalypse is what happens when white people are forced to live in the conditions that the third world is forced to live under in our world.
I love the opening credits for this because it reminds me of like a Shaw Brothers martial arts film, where you're basically showed off like the various weapons that are going to show up in the film. Shaw Brothers would show you also like techniques and show you like two guys fighting with those weapons and doing that shit. But here you at least you get like close-ups of all the like some of the central characters and some of the weapons and stuff like that. It's a very nice striking opening. It's better than having this like text on black screen or whatever. I think the movie works for the most part. Dialogue in this one is worse than in the second film because it's just incredibly stiff. And the line read, it's more the line reads than anything else because there's so much dubbing in this. It's just a lot of it comes off very stiff and bad, but you kind of can forgive it because the characters are so big and interesting, and there's a lot of action. So it's always it's always keeping you moving on to the next scene. There's no real big slowdown, I feel, in this film. Trash's relationship with Anne, you don't even see that. It's just like she gets saved by Trash, and then in the next scene she's like already part of the gang and driving around on motorcycles with them and shit. It's like
we've got things to blow up here. We've got like ineffective action. Like let's let's not slow down long enough for these two characters to actually speak to one another.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think their conversations were that deep anyway. Just like start with because they have that scene on the fucking beach there where it's just like, yeah, we could be killing shit right now. we could be doing that. We could be shooting people.
It's about as good as the love scenes that George Lucas scripted in the Star Wars prequels. It doesn't. It just kind of gets you to a certain place. It doesn't necessarily need to be believable.
At least there were no Senate hearings or anything like in this one. It's like, now the senator from Alderaan 2 will speak on the trade union.
Senator from Bronxitonia will now speak.
Trash, tell us about the problem.
Yeah, at least when gangs meet in this, they have a soundtrack. They have that fucking drummer who's just like, he's just there. He's drumming, and the motorcycles show up. It's like this is not part of the soundtrack. It's actually happening in the film. Like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Although Trash meets up with Fred Williamson. Fred Williamson did all of his scenes in fucking Rome. So if you actually if you notice, if you look out the back window of his car, the background does not match the background of like the wide opening shots when the motorcyclists are coming into that like pier or whatever that they meet at. But I like that. It's just so weird. Like Castellari's just like thinking of weird stuff to throw in here. Apparently, like they hired one drummer and they couldn't find him, so they got another guy to replace him. Like there was just some drummer drumming under a bridge, and there's like, that's our guy. And then that guy disappeared, so they hired some other guy to do it.
But apparently that drummer wasn't even supposed to be in the scene, and then it just randomly got filmed in or something. Like they just decided last second, hey, this is kind of cool, let's do it. So I read. I
think what it was that they discovered this guy, and there was two drummers apparently. They discovered one guy, and they're like, okay, this guy's really neat. He's cool. He's just under this bridge drumming. Let's include that in. And then they couldn't find him when it came to actually doing the scene, so they just hired some other drummer and did it.
Oh, okay.
That's basically what they did, I think. You can tell, like, the motorcyclists, most of them are actually real Hells Angels. Apparently, they all had a good laugh at how Mark Gregory walked, apparently. Apparently, there were some chuckles on set over that. Even in the commentary, I listened to the commentary the other day, and I just love the things that Castellari is excited about in his own film. They're just like talking like, so what's it like dealing with the Hell's Angels, Enzo, and were you doing here? And Castellari just interrupts him, goes, hey, look at that Hell's Angel biker with the prosthetic arm. Look at that, driving a motorcycle with a prosthetic piece. He was just like amazed by that. Like those are the kind of things that like struck him. Like, yeah, we need to hire these people and have them in my film.
Yeah, there's a Gonzo aspect to filming that way. It's nice. Yeah, I like it. I mean, you can tell it comes across in the film. You know,
it's very Gonzo because they had no permits in New York.
Well, yeah, that costs money, and that's one thing they didn't have.
Everything
I love that it's set in the Bronx, and they're just like constantly like shooting over the river into New York.
Yes,
you're basically just looking at New York in the background, as opposed to like actually getting the sense of being in New York. You know.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Like just the guerrilla filmmaking in this, where they had no permits, so it's like we're just gonna film shit and get the fuck off the street before the cops show up. Basically, is what they're doing.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Castellari knows how to use a set because he reuses like those underground tunnels a lot in both films.
Yeah,
it's fucking great stuff. So yeah, we talked about Vic Morrow. This was, I believe, his last film he filmed before he died in the Twilight Zone filming, as far as I know.
I think that before John Landis murdered him, you mean?
Yeah, John Landis killed him. Yeah, and those two kids as well. Yeah.
You know,
sorry, is Vic Morrow, is that Hammer?
Yeah, it's Hammer. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, a friend of mine did the math on that, and realized that if John Landis had gone to prison for that, Max Landis would never have been conceived.
And that douchebag would never have been
have done his own like horrifying things to women and etc. around the world. So, kind of two birds with one stone kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, are we talking about the guy who did Werewolf in London, or are we talking about a different person?
No, we're talking about the same dude.
Okay, I liked Werewolf in London, so I hope whoever made it lives a good life.
No,
that was John Landis, wasn't it?
Yeah, John Landis.
Max Landis is his son. And Max Landis is also a giant piece of shit.
Okay, so the son's the rapist, but the father's okay.
The father murdered people. The son's
father,
a rapist.
The father broke basically child labor laws. Many other things on the set of the Twilight Zone, and Vic Morrow and those two kids died. And if you are brave enough to watch it, there's actually film of that shit on YouTube if you want to see it.
I'm going to be honest, kids have it too easy nowadays. So you know what? Maybe he did the right thing. I don't know. Who's to say?
Did Paul join in on this cast?
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys don't have Paul, so I need somebody to be a little controversial. So you know what?
But yeah, Vic Morrow, longtime character actor, was doing like all kinds of these movies, and I think he's fucking awesome here. He's unfortunately not given sort of his just dues at the end. Like he should have had like a fight with Trash or something like that.
That was the thing that's what I was sort of saying earlier when we were offline, is that he started off as this amazing character, like at the beginning, like he was basically like a ripoff of the Terminator, even though I know this movie came out a few years before the Terminator. He was like this Terminator character where he went in, he killed people very efficiently, and he got out, he escaped. And then the second half of the movie, I literally, again, possibly this is due to alcohol, I didn't even realize he was the same character at the end, because he was this laughing dude with a mustache. He looked like Ron Jeremy. For some reason, he looked a little fatter. And he had like almost a Nazi uniform on, and he was just this maniacal, like mustache twiddling villain. And I was just like, I didn't even know what happened to Hammer. I had to actually go back and realize, oh, that was Hammer who got harpooned at the end. Like I don't even understand how this awesome character from the first half of the movie went into the the shitty character from the second half of the movie. Like it was like there was a little bit of a pacing issue, not pacing, but character writing.
It's a switch. It's a total switch. Like it's kind of a 180 by the end, and I feel like it was probably like a monetary issue. Like, oh, we don't have the money to film Trash killing him like in a fight, so we'll just do like, oh, he hits him with the harpoon gun.
He's just laughing while Trash like slowly picks up the harpoon.
Yeah.
I guess he just assumes, oh, he can't possibly pull that trigger and hit me, like.
Yeah, no, like that Hammer, this awesome villain who throughout the entire film has manipulated the gangs against each other, has gone in and out like a fucking ninja and killed people, all of a sudden he's this fucking Nazi up on the second floor laughing at people and gets a harpoon in the chest. Like it's very unceremonial death for such a great character, you know. Like,
yeah, but he was also stupid enough to like yell out loud when he was, like go get him. Like maybe you could do this with a little more subtlety, But okay, you still ended up killing literally everyone in the cast except for like 3 people. So come on, that's
yeah. I mean, he was still effective up until the end when you got the harpoon in the chest.
Yeah.
Although, of course, the big disappointment here is, and this is just kind of an Italian film thing where a film just ends. So we don't get like 2 minutes of like trash dragging his body behind him in the motorcycle. Like that should have been the credit sequence. Like they shouldn't have cut off. Yeah. It should have been just him dragging fucking Hammer's body like through the Bronx in the credits roll.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the one thing that we should see more in cinema is the mutilation of bodies. That's something that
Hey, Hammer deserved it though.
Yeah, well,
he's a piece of shit. I like that. They take this time in the middle of the film, like the 2 people that Hammer kills right off the bat there, who were just making out in the stairwell. They just, like, these 2 characters we didn't even know. Like, who the fuck are these characters? They have a full fucking, like, Viking funeral for them that takes, like, 5 minutes out of the film.
Oh, yeah.
They're an interracial couple. Yeah. We had to honor them for their sacrifice.
Well, the thing I love is that they rip off old Fortuna. For the music, like it's a direct rip off of that. Like it's basically the Excalibur music, just a rip off of that shit. And they have this whole Viking funeral for them. I love that George Eastman's in this, dressed as Sho'nuff from The Last Dragon before The Last Dragon was made, like in like 3 or 4 years later. So Last Dragon, you fucking hack, I guess, because. George Eastman's here with this like weird Eastern Asian karate thing going on with like a fucking bun on his head or whatever, and I don't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, I don't get the reference. Sorry, but yeah, sure.
So no one here knows The Last Dragon with Sho'nuff.
No, sorry.
Oh Jesus. Well, the listeners will know.
Yeah,
they're smarter than we are.
But I mean, George Eastman has a badass fight with Fred Williamson, though. They get to get it on. They were both in Rome at the same time, so.
Yeah, well, it does remind me of like in the in some of the like Avengers films, like Tony Stark, like Robert Downey Jr. is only like didn't go to some like there are whole continents that Robert Downey Jr. doesn't visit when they shoot these films because ultimately he's just a guy and it's just like a CGI creation.
Yes.
And so he just like sits behind like the monitor and they shine lights in his face and he ends up like talking to a camera. Some of that does kind of come back whenever you think about like Fred Williamson. He's like, fuck you, I'm not going to the Bronx to film this. You can shoot me on a green screen, motherfucker.
I have too many Italian women who want to fuck me right now. I'm not leaving.
That's definitely how it goes. If you're Fred Williamson, it's 1982.
No, I mean this was like the height of his like popularity in Europe. Like it's like I'm staying and getting fucked. I don't give a shit, but this Bronx stuff. I'm not leaving. Enzo, you just bring a camera over here and get it done. Like Castellari was cognizant of. Okay, so this is supposed to be the future, right? So
it's the year 2000.
Yeah, even though the Bronx itself it looks like 1982 Bronx, basically just destroyed, basically just run down and destroyed. We got to bring in future cops. we got to bring in
flamethrowers.
Nazi future cops with flamethrowers.
Oh, that's more in the sequel, right? Or are they in the first one as well?
They do it in both films. And,
okay.
More of the second film, though.
But, the cops here, they have like special uniforms. They're on horseback. It's almost got like a Planet of the Apes vibe with the gorillas on horseback.
I was kind of thinking it's a lot like a Western in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to say this movie reminded me of not the Planet of the Apes, the original per se, but a lot of the sequels like Beneath and I think Battle for
War for Planet of the Apes or whatever, Battle or whatever. Yeah,
that might be the one. Like one of the ones where they sort of lost their budget and they're just like, hey, we're just doing this at this point. This movie reminded me a lot of. I think it had a lot to do with the set dressing, but yeah, there was a lot of vibes to some of the Planet of the Apes sequels.
Yeah.
But yeah, the horses definitely, that was a callback to even the first movie. First Planet of the Apes movies, where it's like, why are they on horseback? It makes no sense in this scenario, but who knows? But why not?
Yeah. I think the first film works pretty well. It has the problem of, again, the villain kind of is just thrown into the back, like he's just kind of forgotten at the end. Like the corporate villains, they don't even get their comeuppance. They just they just disappear.
Shades of RoboCop 5 years early.
Yeah. Very, very
very reminiscent of RoboCop. Particularly, I think the second one is even more so.
I was going to say actually the RoboCop 3 almost had, because RoboCop 3 was almost a battle for whatever the hell wherever the hell it took place, and that was kind of the same deal. Different, but it was the same idea.
You're right. RoboCop 3 actually probably is basically just a remake of fucking Escape from the Bronx.
Well, there we go. We've discovered.
RoboCop 3,
even lower version, even shittier version.
It is. It's a shittier version. That's the sad thing. RoboCop 3, you hacks.
Yeah.
But we've got the girl from ER, so it's fine. That's the.
I do like that for Williamson. It was probably written in his contract. I get to if I'm dying in this film, I'm going to die like a badass. So he gets to light up one of his cigars and get flamethrowed to death, which is pretty awesome. I think it's a pretty fucking good action film for its time. The action actually, this one, and especially when we get to the sequel, reminds me of Dawn of the Dead, where it was the quick shooting and all that shit in enclosed areas and stuff like that.
Well, there's a lot of when you got this kind of low budget action of this time, you pretty much you're just paying a stunt guy to kind of do the thing you need him to do, and you just kind of shoot it, and you just kind of cut around the rough edges. Yeah. And so it has a very kind of specific action style that you just don't see in more modern films. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, basically be the guy that wears the flame suit so you get burned to death and it's okay.
Yeah, so any other final thoughts before we move on? No? Okay.
It's really difficult to actually do combat with a whip. That's one of that's one of those things where, whenever you see a character using a whip as a combat device, it's actually woefully inefficient. But
yeah, and she's straight up breaking people's necks with it too.
Right, no, she's really, I mean, it's supposed to be she's a badass, kind of dominatrix girl or whatever. And it looks great, but in reality, if you've ever actually handled a whip, it's not an offensive weapon. It's just not.
She wouldn't have lasted that long, even with her claws that she has in her hands too.
Right. No, but the important thing is it gets a bunch of guys hard, so it's okay.
And hey, she's got claws. She's part of the Tigers.
Yeah.
Guys. Thematically, it fits very well.
You ungodly warlock.
All right, Escape from the Bronx.
You're from New York? Are we doing? We can do Escape from New York. That's fine too.
We could we're definitely gonna do it at some point. But Escape from the Bronx, 1983, aka Escape from the Bronx, 1990. Bronx Warriors 2. That's a incredibly long fucking title. Bronx Warriors 2. Escape 2000.
The authorities declare the Bronx a high-risk zone. There's only one alternative: destroy it. Destroy it. Escape from the Bronx.
So there we go. Directed again by Enzo G. Castellari, written by Tito Capri and Enzo G. Castellari. Mark Gregory is back as Trash. Henry Silva, a well-known movie villain. If you don't know who he is, you've definitely seen his face, or if you haven't watched enough movies, and I just feel sorry for you. As Floyd Wangler. What a fucking name for a villain. Oh, fuck. That has to be like some Italian thing where it's just like they just don't know how stupid that sounds.
What do you mean? I would hate to be attacked by Floyd Wangler.
Okay, I guess you have a point there.
That's the villain from Orgasmo. That's what that is.
Valeria Diobishi as Moon Gray. Timothy Brent as Strike, and this is Giancarlo Prete from the New Barbarians with his American name.
There we go.
And he looks significantly younger in this film than he does in the New Barbarians, which is weird because they were both filmed at the same time. Which I guess he put on like maybe 10 or 20 pounds when he was filming New Barbarians. I don't know what the fuck was going on. Antonio Sabato as Deblone. And this is the father of Antonio Sabato Jr.
Yes.
Minor action movie star or whatever, Antonio Sabato Jr.
Right-wing douche nozzle, Antonio Sabato Jr.
Oh, well, that's disappointing. I didn't know that part.
Former soap star, model.
Ennio Girolami coming back and as a different character, which is weird. We'll get into it, but as President Clark. Paolo Malco as the vice president, Eva Samiris as Trash's mother, Alessandro Prete as Strike Jr., and I assume this is fucking Prete's kid. I didn't do research into that, but I'm kind of assuming here at this point. Moana Ozai as Birdie, and I actually looked into her. She's an Italian porn actress, or she was. Also a television personality and a politician who died at age 33.
I looked at her Wikipedia page for research reasons.
Yes. But
more importantly, can we look into her Pornhub page?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of interested to see what she did because there's some like controversy about how she died. Apparently, there's some theories that maybe she was killed by the KGB, which is okay. The official reason is liver cancer.
We're now going to become a true crime podcast. Just digging into that story. The next 20 episodes are going to be us trying to figure out while drinking how this woman died.
Carla Brait is back as Iron Man leader. If you've watched the first film, she was the David Bowie-ish female leader of the gang that danced a lot.
Which was a pretty badass scene, honestly.
Yeah,
she does a little bit of that in this film. So,
and she's like, Trash.
It's the Bob Fosse influence.
I'm kind of glad they had the continuity. I love continuity in movies like this. I'm glad they brought her back.
And that just makes you think there should have been a third film where they actually fucked because she does Trash a favor in the first film, and Trash is like, I owe you. It's like, I know. And then the second film was like, I still know you owe me, Trash. Hey. And then in the third film, they eventually fuck and get together. That would have been the trilogy.
That would have been it.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm sorry to like jump ahead, but so this chick did not die in this movie, to my knowledge, right? She survived. Okay, because I don't remember her dying. Yeah, so I just clarify.
She's like the only one. It's like
yeah,
her and
pretty much,
and Debloney there. And the kid. That's about it.
Massimo Vanni as Little Big Man, and Enzo G. Castellari is back this time, but he's not as one of the main villains in the corporate room. Instead, he's the radio operator with mustache.
Okay. Because why not?
Just great. Here's the synopsis from IMDb from someone called Jonah Falcon. A vicious corporation tries to kill and starve the last remaining inhabitants of the Bronx in order to build their own high-rise developments. A lone, long-haired, hot-tempered warrior, Trash, is his only obstacle. Trash, a psychopathic bomb maker and his equally psychopathic preschool son, and an annoying activist help him out by kidnapping the president, in brackets, of the corporation, a Richard Dreyfuss lookalike.
That's okay.
I don't know about that.
That sounds a little off.
Yeah, he kind of looks more like, I'd say more like Lee Van Cleef and Richard Dreyfuss had a kid.
Yeah, not really Richard Dreyfuss. I mean, he's got that generic businessman look.
Yeah, he just looks like old man who has so much power.
No, he looks like the guy from Christmas Vacation who they kidnap at the end. The guy who denied them the Christmas bonuses. That's what he looks like.
Okay, I can go with that. Henry Silva plays another psychopath. This on the side of the corporations. My favorite movie of Mystery Science Theater 3000 series. Yeah, and fuck that, by the way. There's some stupid stuff in this film, but I don't think this is one of those movies that MST3K should have covered, because I think for the most part it's pretty fucking solid. But that's
it's pretty good.
Greg, what are your sort of initial thoughts on this one?
I'll tell you my major thought about this movie. If I am ever in a conflict with a vehicle, be it a van or a Porsche or a helicopter, all I need to do is have a handgun or a shotgun, and I will be able to defeat them.
You will be able to, yeah.
Those are clearly the cheat codes to defeating vehicles such as that. Is just shoot at them with a few rounds and you'll be okay, because they'll blow up real easy.
I don't know why people flew so many helicopters in this film as they did, because you're just asking for trouble. Because apparently a little revolver in your hand can take out a fucking helicopter just like that.
Yeah, no, it's easy. Otherwise, I mean, I sort of don't enjoy this movie as much as the first one. I think the Trash character is a little bit more of a character in this one, although ultimately I don't think it leads anywhere. And I think the plot to this movie, I actually think it starts off more interesting. And again, that doesn't really lead anywhere. It's kind of like, it's kind of interesting. And then the end is like, oh, just everyone dies. And so what? It's kind of like, well, what is really the point? I feel, at least the first one, I feel kind of has some sort of a conclusion, even though it was a little bit kind of, iffy as well. But yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. But at least there was kind of some sort of conclusion. Whereas this one is just kind of like, okay, well, you killed these people, so what? What's happening now? Is someone going to just take over and pretty much just take over the Bronx anyway? Like, I don't really know what's happening at this point. I don't know what you've accomplished per se. But yay, I guess the weird guy died because you shot his van, so yay.
Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, basically at the end of the film, I mean, the thing is that they capture the president, the president of the company, and then he ends up being shot by the other guy, and then the other guy dies.
Yep.
But ultimately, the corporation is still out there. Like, this is a multi-billion-dollar project. Like, they're still going to come through and clear out the Bronx.
The bad guys win.
The bad guys totally win in this. It doesn't matter. There is a futility at the heart of this film. No matter how much we like our kind of rebels in the film, and there is some stuff I really like. I like Debloney. I don't know how however you pronounce his name. I like that character. Even the kid didn't annoy me too much.
No, he's not Bob. He's definitely not Bob.
I like the activist character. I like the reporter activist. I think she's well realized and kind of a lot of fun, and kind of in a lot of ways the real hero of the film. Sacrifices herself nobly.
Fight fascism, yeah.
Yeah, no, and and But I really like they do kind of tune up the sci-fi concept a little bit in this. I mean, they are kind of playing with a little bit more of those ideas, whereas in the first one it does kind of feel like a little bit more of a straight action film with sort of a kind of generic action movie plot with a little bit of kind of sci-fi stuff. Here you get a little bit more of a sense that there is at least some kind of like thought behind kind of what's the goal of this, why is this being done. It does kind of feel like kind of the early version of what RoboCop's going to eventually do. But it's effective. I think it's pretty well executed for what it is. We are kind of suffering from the lack of our two best character actors from the first film. That's really the big, kind of loss here, is that we just don't really have that, and because we don't have that, we don't really have the, we're not kind of grounded in the same way, and so we kind of just end up. It feels a little bit more. A lot of the action feels a little bit more generic. There's a little bit more just kind of running around without a whole lot of point behind it. But ultimately, I mean, I think I don't want to say the ideas carry through, but I think the themes carry through, and I think it actually, in a lot of ways, for me, it's actually a little bit more effective, like kind of as a story than the first film, which feels a little bit more like kind of like people scrambling around and kind of like alliances made and lost and that sort of thing. Whereas this feels a little bit more kind of streamlined and straightforward. So, in some ways, I actually do prefer the sequel. Although, I'd probably want to sit down and rewatch them both back to back just to kind of refresh on that. But
so this one kind of, it carries over from the first one, where it's a lot of the same stuff, but it kind of like twists the story a bit. Like it continues the story, but the twist is it makes it more violent and more vicious.
Yeah.
Trash is
flamethrowers. I mean, like in 1983, flamethrowers would have been very much in people's memory from Vietnam. This was something, now it's kind of more like, it's like an action movie cliche or whatever, but I mean, they were actively using in the early, I mean, not just Vietnam, but Vietnam would have been the big thing.
Yeah.
They were actively using flamethrowers to like, burn people out of like, villages and rainforests in the early 80s. So this is absolutely a sort of, direct action of that. And the fact that they are used this much in the film, it does feel like it's a deliberate choice.
Yeah, I mean, Trash's parents, who we discover he actually has parents in this film, they get the Skywalker treatment here. Like they get the Skywalker's aunt and uncle or whatever. Uncle Owen, auntie, whatever.
This is how they actually got burned to death, though.
Yeah, you actually see them get burnt to death, and I gotta compliment Castellari here. Like as much as there's like a couple moments in this film that show it seems where it's like cheap as shit, he's like really going for interesting shots and stuff in this. I love that sequence where they're going up to his parents' place in the apartment, where that whole hallway is just like blue paint and the rest of the apartment's just drab. And they go into that. Like, it just looks really good. Yeah, the film just has this vicious tone. It sets Trash on this revenge. And I think Mark Gregory actually kind of carries that fairly well in this for what he's given to do.
He's definitely better in this film than he was in the first one.
Yeah, well, he talks in this film a little bit. That's a good thing.
I'll also say the dubbing here is like about 1,000 times better in the first film.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue comes off more natural in this film. I find it funny that Trash in this film is now he's a loner and he's an arms dealer, where in the first film he was fighting arms dealers, which is kind of ironic.
That's just how far things have degenerated in the last few years.
Yeah.
Well, it's 10 years later, isn't it? It's a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean the film, like the irony of this film is that all the things in the first film actually sort of happened. Like they wanted to rid the gangs out of the Bronx, and now they're all underground. Now they want to gentrify the entire area and just mow it over and make a new city.
They're doing ethnic cleansing. That's explicit in the film. This is ethnic cleansing. And they're like promising, oh no, we'll take you to New Mexico, the land of enchantment. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like no one wants to go to New Mexico. One of my biggest complaints is, and I actually like this film better than the first film. I think the thing I like about this the most is that it's very action heavy and it gets to its point very quickly as far as story wise. I do think it's a big mistake to take Ennio Guillermi, or whatever the fuck his name is, from the first film and make him in a similar but different role. Like, I think his character should have just been carried over to this film. and it would have made it more interesting. Like he definitely he wants to gentrify the entire area, but at the same time, he's still got a hate on for trash because his daughter got killed in that war.
Right. Oh yeah, that's interesting. I like that idea.
See, that would have been cool. Henry Silva is fucking awesome in this, and he gets a little bit more of like a conflict of trash. Like he does a bit better than Vic Morrow gets in the first film, but still he's not given enough. And Henry Silva must have had like the easiest fucking acting like day, because I don't think he worked more than a day on this film. And he just gets to like say cool lines. He's this like total psychopath who doesn't care about anything. Like he's not put off by the fact that the rebels are winning at one point. He just plainly tells his paymasters that the president who's kidnapped, he might die. I'll get back to you on that.
Oh, good.
What fucking freaks him out is that he has too much sugar in his coffee. Like that sets him off. And there should have been a scene of him shooting one of his subordinates in the head. That would have been great.
Hey, those of you who are on a low sugar diet don't understand the pain that man went through. It's very difficult.
But that's so good, and I love that at one point in this film he basically breaks the fourth wall. Like he's talking with the other corporate guy who's trying to take over the company, and they basically they catch up the plot for anyone who can't follow the plot in this fucking film. He says, the president was going to die anyway, so we'll get rid of him and we'll steamroll this whole thing. And he's looking right in the camera as he says it. It's so like Henry Silva's like, I know what this movie is.
You know, it's funny. This is like post drive-in era, because I do kind of expect a little bit of that in the drive-in era, where they really would make these things and not expect people to sort of follow along all that well, you know. But it's definitely an experience, you know, when your villain just kind of looks to camera and goes, "This is what's happening now."
Yeah, this is it. This is the film I'm in, guys. Pay me my money. Pay that man his money. Yeah. And I like that Giancarlo Prete here is actually, he's far removed from his character in New Barbarians. He's got character. He's actually doing shit. He's charismatic. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why did you do that to him in New Barbarians, where he just like had him be like stiff as shit? I don't know. I guess Fred Williamson was the answer to that. It's like, Fred Williamson's going to carry everything, but he's really good in this. I'm glad he survived the film. He's one of like the 3 people who survives.
Yep. Yeah, I liked him, and the kid was fine. I mean, I don't like kids, but whatever. It was as good as the kid could be, but
yeah, he wasn't annoying. Like
that was the thing.
If you're gonna have a kid tossing grenades, this is the kid you want tossing grenades.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a super genius or annoying. He's just like a scrappy kid who likes blowing people up and shooting them. Like it.
Yeah, why not? I gotta say, whoever created the traps in the tunnels is an absolute genius. Like, because they made it through without setting off the traps themselves, but then every 2 seconds there's a trap to catch all these flamethrower fellas. And it's good for you.
At one point, the kid knows to the second when the guy's gonna trip the wire and like blow himself up.
Oh yeah, that kid knows what's happening.
This kid's like a fucking savant with explosives. He's that fucking good. And man, they reuse the same fucking underground location wherever it was. I don't know if it was New York or Rome. I'm assuming it's probably Rome, actually. By the look,
it's probably Rome, or it's probably an interior or something.
Yeah,
and that child was played by young Donald Trump. Because why not?
There is a Donald Trump character in this film, and that's the president.
Yeah,
because he's basically doing what Donald Trump would have done if Donald Trump was actually.
Are we talking about the president or the guy who sort of becomes the president right at the end? The dude in the Porsche reminds me more of Donald Trump.
I guess in a way, yeah.
Like a young Donald Trump.
Yeah. There's an old and a young one in this.
It's a movie about wealthy people like demolishing a civilization for their own petty benefit. Mm-hmm. It's all Donald Trump, ultimately.
Listen, I will tell you, as I am a person who is a enthusiast about sports cars, you do not bring your fucking sports car, which, at the time that Porsche was probably a really hot sports car. You do not bring it into a war zone.
No.
If you feel the need to bring a vehicle and you're a wealthy individual, bring a tank or an ATV or something that protects you. Who the fuck is going to bring a goddamn little Porsche in there and be like, oh, I'm going to drive away. I hope nobody hurts me.
I don't know why that fucking guy went in there so close. He didn't need to go there. He could have talked to Wangler on a fucking telephone. It's like, is the job done? Yeah, the job's done. I killed the president. All right, deal done. I still got my company. The entire Bronx has been leveled. I win. Instead, he actually had to fucking show up there and drive his car through the fucking war zone. Like, he has to drive a fairly long street to get out.
Yeah, you know why it is because it's like, hey, guess what? See this Porsche? Yeah, you can't afford it. I'm better than you.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'm better than you. Here, this is like my cock. It's bigger than yours. So here you go.
I love this one more, though. Like, the action ramps up. There's an unlimited army of guys in silver suits and motorcycle helmets who get killed. Jesus Christ. They must have had, like, literally, if you look at this in realistic terms, they must have had, like, thousands of guys on hand to do this job. And there's like, yeah, we can kill 500 of them. That's acceptable losses. Like,
it does feel a little bit like a video game after a while, you know, where you know, again, I kind of said this in the New Librarians, like I would love to play a video game in this kind of setting, you know, but this definitely feels like a first person shooter kind of, you know, like where you got a bunch of dudes in silver suits with flamethrowers coming after you, and you've got like bombs and like a little gun.
I'd like to know what these guys' weekly wages are.
They must be very low. Like, this is a dystopian future kind of thing. Like, they're probably not being paid very well. Like, they're probably being paid better than the common person on the street, and that's why
they're probably being paid in that if you do this job, we won't kill you today.
That could be it too.
That's your payment.
The thing is, this is New Mexico. We're relocating you to New Mexico, and the real thing is like, no, you get to be a slave soldier in a silver suit, helping to clear out your fellow men.
So who has it better, them or the fucking police? Because a lot of fucking police get killed in this film too. Like, they just get murdered straight up. Like, when they go to kidnap the fucking president, there's like this whole scene where maybe like 30 police officers get murdered, like just straight up, like plainclothes detectives and uniforms.
Well, that's the thing is our hashtag heroes police officers that are like literally just doing their job. They get brutally murdered for just trying to protect someone.
I guess
it seems a little hard. Trying to protect the billionaires who are clearing out the normal human beings. So.
Yeah, I guess the real like story there is that like basically they're just basically 2 steps away from being SS officers at that point. Well, they're just protecting like the whatever dystopian corporate fucking, like, it almost feels like the president of this company is more powerful than president of the United States kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is like the president. Oh, like the president of the U.S. No, the president of the company. Duh. You know.
Oh.
I've got to say one thing. I'm just going to throw this in here. I love the Disinfestation Annihilation Squad. Like,
right.
Like that's such a like, you know, sci-fi movie thing, but it's like so effective, right? You know?
Yeah, because the guy's chastising Henry Silva is like, you're just committing genocide. It's like, no, it's not genocide. It's disinfestation. You know. Yeah, and Henry Silva's just like a perfect fucking psychopath in this film. He's just, and man, he's got the greatest face. Like he's like fucking Jack Palance with that like skull face kind of.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Where he's smiling, he's loving killing people, and he's just a great villain in this. I love that shit. Yeah, this works for me, and they up the fucking gore and stuff in this too. Like there's one scene where Giancarlo Prete fucking takes his rifle and smashes a dude in the face, and it just collapses his whole fucking face in his helmet.
Oh yeah, no, that was amazing. That was amazing shot there. Like, it's like, man, you're more effective with the butt of the gun than you were when you had bullets. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and Trash is pretty good too. Like, he's like fucking Conan the Barbarian. Like, whether he's got a gun or he's just doing hand to hand, he's fucking people up like throughout this film. I think the action scenes in this are just like ramped up. They're better than the first film, and I thought the first film was no slouch either. So
I love at one point they like just throw him like a tiny gun, and he's just like, he doesn't even need more ammo, doesn't he? He's just like, oh no, we're good. All right. He almost like flashes him like a thumbs up. It's a pretty like little like, all right, okay, this is the kind of film this is. But
I enjoy Antonio Sabato's character. He's just like basically scumbag Sinbad is what he is. Like, but yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about other than like I like this one better because it's just ultimately these films are delivery systems for like low budget entertainment, like just action films. And I think this one does it better because it gets a lot of the complications of the story out of the way, because the bad guys in the first film got all the complications out of the way. So now it's just trash on a revenge kick, basically. That's it. So it works for me.
Yeah, no, it definitely works. It's I mean, I do like the second film better, but I don't know. There are things I also like. I mean, I like both films.
Yeah, no, I think they're both excellent. It's just the second film works for me better as like a delivery system of all the awesome things I liked from the first film.
I'm
going to probably be the outlier. I'm going to be the outlier, and I'm going to actually say I think I enjoyed the first film more. But that being said, I think the first film works more as a late 70s movie. The second film works better as sort of almost a mid 80s movie, where it's definitely a more action movie, if that's your thing. I don't know. I just something about the first film I enjoyed a little bit more.
I get that. The second film feels like a canon picture. Like it feels very much like story. Fuck story. Let's just kill people.
we've got squibs to blow here. Come on.
And it feels like that one ends, and it feels like Castellari is thinking we can do a third one. Like it
definitely feels like there should be a third one. It really feels like there should have been a third one with like a couple more years later, where it is like kind of okay. The Bronx has been completely leveled at this point.
Yeah. Mark Gregory, as far as I know, is still alive. Okay, so
anybody knows. And
Castellari is still alive.
He can't even be that old at this point. So I mean, they could theoretically make a sequel if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean,
they could do one where
Mark Gregory would be like 50 or something now. Maybe
the Bronx. The Bronx is now gentrified. It's built up. It's the future.
They could kind of do a like Land of the Dead style.
Yes.
Where like it's like they've built up all the like fancy condominiums or whatever in this like future Bronx, and then the underclass suddenly
Mark Gregory.
Yeah, that would actually be amazing.
And he, builds a resistance and builds up a revolution.
Yeah, he's behind the sewers all this time.
No, Trash goes to New Mexico and takes all those disenfranchised people that were moved there, and of course, I mean, let's make no bones about it. Very present today, those people were put in camps. They were put in camps in New Mexico. I mean, that's what's happening. They're not being hosed.
I'm gonna be honest though. My geography is not the best, but New Mexico and Bronx aren't that close to each other.
No, but Trash goes there, and he brings back all those people from the Bronx.
I like the fact that the choice of New Mexico was two specific things. One, they learned in Italy that it was the land of enchantment, and thought like, oh, that's a cool like thing that we can put on the posters.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is pretty cool. The second thing that they figured was like the nuclear bomb testing was done there, and so I suspect they're trying to imply that there's some kind of like radiation or something from like some, so that's just putting myself into the like low budget filmmaker in the early 80s like headspace.
Hey,
I can imagine that's why New Mexico was the choice. But
hey, if Trash leads an army of mutants back into the Bronx to destroy it, I'd be up for that too. That'd be great. Yeah. So the second film has the distinction of having people actually count the death toll in this, and apparently in the uncut version of this film, the death toll is 174. There are 110 killed in shootings, 40 in explosions, 9 by flamethrowers, 1 by stabbing, 1 by off-screen kill, 4 unknowns, 6 electrocutions, 2 bashed in the face with a helmet, and 1 face turned into red mush after being hit with a shotgun butt, as we just talked about.
Shotguns are very powerful.
Just like Fred Williamson, all Henry Silva's scenes were shot in Rome. And on the wall of the apartment of Trash's parents is a large black and white poster of Mark Gregory from the first movie, 1990, The Bronx Warriors, which is, it kind of stands out. It's weird.
Well, it's your son. Wouldn't you want a poster of your son, possibly topless?
Well, I will say, like, the artwork for both these posters are great. Like, they're examples of the sort of 80s stuff where it's like, maybe our movie's not as good, but we're going to sell you with the poster. Although I would argue that I think the poster sells a pretty good movie when you go in to watch it, kind of thing, for both of them. So yeah, that's pretty much the trivia. We do have some DVD info here for both of these films. 2015 Blu-ray DVD combo packs from Blue Underground, or you can get the 2018 DVD or Blue of these two films with the new Barbarians, and that's the one I own.
I almost bought that one when we were talking about doing this. I almost clicked buy on that and then just chose not to. Both of these are available on Amazon for like a $4 rental if you want to do it that way. So
yeah, there you go. And you can get the first one on YouTube. You can get the second one with the MST3K on YouTube. I wouldn't recommend it. Although there's also the Italian language version of the second one on YouTube in really shitty quality too.
I don't mean to lead people down a straight path, but if you're inclined to go the torrent route, I'll say both of them are available and both of them have seeds that are fairly active. That I was able to pick up both movies. If I were to do it, I'm not saying I would actually do it because that's a terrible thing.
How dare you, sir? We have never promoted piracy on this podcast.
But I would say if I were to, just as an experiment, pirate it, I would say I could probably download them in about 45 minutes to an hour, which is not super fast, but it's reasonably fast for a movie that's not particularly popular. But I would never do it. But if I did, that's about how long.
You were estimating those times as a person who has never engaged in piracy before.
Yeah, like I would say I would be a complete piracy virgin, and this would be like completely my de-chairing. Is that a word? Probably not, but
de-chairification. I don't know. All right, Greg, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, really nothing interesting. You can, if you'd really like to, it doesn't cost you any money. You can subscribe to Beer Burglar. I post stuff every once in a while. I don't think I posted anything in months at this point. But hey, again, it doesn't cost you any money. Subscribe to me, and maybe I'll post something. And when I post something, I generally find that I think it's kind of funny. So you can enjoy it. Again, even if it's not, it doesn't cost you anything. So you got nothing to lose. So Beer Burglar on YouTube, why not?
Yeah. Daniel, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Twitter at Daniel E. Harper. You can find me there. I also do a podcast called I Don't Speak German with my buddy Jack most of the time. That is a podcast about the real world examples of the terrible people who are parodied in this film. So, yeah, more or less. Yeah, I do a podcast about the podcasts of neo-Nazis, essentially. So, yay, go listen to that if you haven't. Which I can't imagine anyone listening to this doesn't know about that podcast at this point, but hey, who knows? Yeah,
because that podcast is actually wildly popular at this point.
I don't know about wildly popular, but it's much more popular than this one. But
it's both very popular with reasonable people and Nazis.
Yeah. Yes. I'm pretty sure more Nazis listen to that podcast than like not Nazis listen to this one. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. And then they stab themselves in the ball sacks, apparently. Hopefully, at least.
Hopefully, yeah.
You can find us at tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find all of our links to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Facebook. Join the Facebook group. Best way to find out what's going on in the podcast and get in contact with us and leave comments there. We'll respond to them. And usually if you're a Facebook user on the group and you leave comments, you're a reasonable person. You're not like those fucking yahoos on YouTube who are just weird or outright jerks. I don't know.
Just watch 10 minutes of the content. You'll be fine.
Exactly. But yeah, next time, actually, we're going to break off now. If it sounds okay with you, Daniel, we're going to start going into sex comedies.
Yes.
Oh, sounds fun. Yeah, no, I'm down.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking that next time we're going to tackle The First Turn On from 1983.
I've not seen that one. Sounds good.
Which is an early trauma film.
Oh,
that sounds good.
There'll be boobs.
Yeah, there's lots of boobs.
I was eyeballing this film called Matchless from 1967, which has Henry Silva in it, which is a spy film parody, and which looks very much.
Ooh!
It has the gorgeous Italian woman on the cover of the posters.
Well, Henry Silva did do a lot of films with gorgeous Italian women. So
I think we should make that like an episode at some point.
Yes, throw it on the master list, indeed.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll do sex comedies next week, or a sex comedy next week. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm feeling like the next couple episodes, maybe next 3 episodes, will be sex comedies. Like we got The First Turn On next time. We got California Dreaming, which was suggested by Jeff Williams, and maybe Pick Up Summer.
Sure.
We'll see how things go. I mean, that's
the reason I got in the headspace to rewatch bits of Perfect Timing while I was watching the second film this week.
Oh yeah.
I think partly just because it was very. I just had this like headspace of like who should be in this? Papushka. Papushka should be in this film.
She does fit those films. She really does. Very very like just I don't give a shit what you think of me, punk rock kind of thing.
Yeah. Would have been a better hero than Trash. And Trash is pretty good.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that Trash is actually lacking. He's lacking like a strong female counterpart.
Yeah, which is why he needs what's her name, the Iron Man leader.
Yeah, like she should have been
he needs Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow in 1983, who was like 7 years old or something.
Well, it's an Italian film. Who knows what goes there, right? Yeah. Trash.
All right, we should definitely turn it off now.
Yeah, it's getting a little super rapey.
Yep.
So
get a little Epstein in here.
So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
You have been listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For other episodes, our links to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and our Facebook group, as well as links to podcasts and websites of similar interest, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you. Drive through.